You wake up in the morning, you slept, you had coffee, maybe you even started the day with good intentions, but only a few hours later, something feels off. Your brain already feels tired, not physically tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, a different kind of fatigue, the kind where simple tasks feel heavier than they should. Reading a page feels slower, making decisions feels harder. Concentrating for long periods feels almost impossible. And by the end of the day, your mind feels completely drained. Many people assume this is a motivation problem, but most of the time, it isn't. Your brain isn't lazy, it's overloaded. The brain runs on limited energy. Your brain represents only about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes around 20% of your body's energy. Thinking is not free. Every decision you make, every problem you solve, every piece of information you process uses cognitive resources. Most of the time, you don't notice this happening. Your brain quietly manages thousands of processes in the background, but when the demands become constant, the system begins to strain. Mental fatigue appears when the brain is asked to process more information than it can comfortably handle over long periods. And modern life produces a remarkable amount of information. Messages, notifications, emails, news, conversations, endless streams of new content. Even when you are not actively working, your brain is still processing, still evaluating, still responding. Over time, this constant input accumulates. The hidden cost of constant decisions. Another reason your brain feels tired is something called decision fatigue. Every day you make an enormous number of decisions. Some are small: what to eat, what message to answer first, which task to start. Others feel more important: how to respond to someone, whether you're doing enough with your life, what direction to take next. Each decision requires evaluation. Decisions that involve uncertainty require more effort. When the outcome is unclear, the brain must simulate possibilities. It imagines different scenarios, predicts how people might react, tries to estimate which option will lead to the best result. This type of mental simulation is useful, but it is also expensive. The more uncertainty a decision contains, the longer the brain stays engaged with it. This is why certain decisions linger in the mind long after they are made. Your brain keeps reviewing them, checking whether the choice was correct, searching for signals that confirm or challenge the decision. Over time, this constant background evaluation quietly consumes mental energy, even when you are not actively thinking about the decision anymore. This is why simple choices often feel strangely difficult at the end of the day. Your brain is not failing, it is conserving what little energy remains. The illusion of rest. Many people assume mental fatigue should disappear with rest, but the way most people rest today does not actually give the brain a break. When you finish work, you often switch directly into another form of stimulation. Scrolling, watching videos, reading headlines, checking messages. The activity changes, but the brain is still processing information, still reacting, still making small decisions. Should I like this? Should I watch that instead? Should I respond? From the brain's perspective, the work never fully stops, so the fatigue continues accumulating. The attention problem. Your brain also becomes tired when attention is constantly interrupted. Attention is not something the brain switches on and off instantly. It takes time to fully engage with a task. But modern environments are full of interruptions. Notifications appear, messages arrive, tabs remain open. Other thoughts pull your focus away. Every time your attention shifts, the brain must reset. It must reorient to the new task, then return to the previous one. This constant switching is surprisingly expensive for the brain. Even when each interruption lasts only a few seconds, the cognitive cost adds up. Instead of focusing deeply, The brain spends most of its time reloading context. That repeated effort slowly drains mental energy. The pressure to keep up. There is another factor that contributes to mental fatigue. The constant feeling that you should be doing more productive, more informed, more organized, more successful. Modern culture quietly encourages the idea that there is always something else you should be learning, building, or improving. Your brain internalizes this pressure. Even during moments of rest, part of your mind may still feel slightly unsettled, as if you are behind, as if something important is being missed. That background tension keeps the brain partially engaged even when you try to relax, and partial engagement still consumes energy. Why everything starts to feel harder. When cognitive energy starts to drain, the brain begins adjusting its behavior. It becomes more resistant to effort. Tasks that normally feel manageable begin to feel heavier. Not because they are objectively harder, but because the brain is trying to conserve resources. This is why motivation often disappears when mental fatigue builds. Your brain is protecting itself. It reduces willingness to engage in demanding tasks. Instead, it begins prioritizing short-term comfort and nudges you toward activities that require less effort. Checking messages, opening new tabs, looking for something briefly entertaining. These activities feel easier because they demand less sustained attention. They are not signs of weak discipline. They are signals that the brain is trying to regulate its remaining energy. In other words, distraction often increases when the mind is already tired. Not because the task became harder, but because the brain is trying to protect itself from further strain. Mental energy recovers differently. Recovering mental energy is not the same as recovering physical energy. Sleep is important, but the brain also needs periods where it is not constantly processing new input. Moments where attention is allowed to settle. Walking without stimulation. Quiet environments, doing something simple without stimulation. Simple activities that do not require constant evaluation or reaction. These moments allow the brain's processing systems to slow down. They reduce the background demand on cognitive resources. Over time, this allows mental clarity to return. The role of cognitive boundaries. One of the most effective ways to protect mental energy is by creating boundaries around attention, limiting unnecessary inputs, reducing constant task switching, allowing some activities to happen without multitasking. These changes may seem small, but they significantly reduce the cognitive load placed on the brain. When attention becomes less fragmented, mental energy stabilizes. Tasks feel clearer, decisions feel easier, focus becomes more sustainable. Slower thinking is not a problem. There is a common assumption that a healthy mind should always feel sharp, fast, and productive. But the brain is not designed to operate at maximum intensity all the time. Periods of slower thinking are normal. They are often necessary. In fact, many insights and creative ideas appear when the brain is not under constant pressure to perform. When attention softens, when thoughts are allowed to wander, mental space returns, and with it, clarity. Small ways to protect your mental energy. If your brain feels constantly tired, the solution is usually not pushing yourself harder. It is reducing unnecessary cognitive load. That often starts with small adjustments. The first is simplifying decisions. When too many choices compete for attention, the brain spends energy evaluating options. Creating small routines removes that pressure. Eating similar breakfasts. Working at the same time each day. Reducing minor daily choices. These changes may seem insignificant, but they free up mental energy for things that actually matter. Another helpful change is protecting periods of uninterrupted attention. Instead of constantly switching between tasks, give your brain space to focus on one thing at a time. Even short periods of focused work, 20 or 30 minutes can be surprisingly restorative, because the brain no longer needs to repeatedly reset its attention. If your brain often feels tired, it does not mean something is wrong with you. It may simply mean your mind has been working continuously for longer than it was designed to. Processing information, making decisions, managing expectations. In a world filled with constant input, mental fatigue becomes easy to accumulate. But understanding how the brain spends its energy is the first step toward protecting it. Because when cognitive demands are reduced, even slightly, the mind begins to recover, and the quiet clarity that once felt distant slowly returns.